When I started my podcast, I didn't plan anything. Here's what I do now. Alright, everybody, this is the first segment of my how-to series for podcasts. I started my own podcast back in 2024, early 2024. And I really wanted to do a podcast. I've been really thinking about it. I was just always pushing it. It always seemed like a big ordeal for me. And I was doing a bunch of other things and, kind of didn't feel like I was in the space. But I just said, let's just start it. And I have a big love for coffee, and I'm a creative, so I put the two together, and I created this podcast called Caffeinated Creatives. And the idea was actually that I loved Hot Ones, the show where there is basically hot chicken, increasingly hot, and it's basically an interview. So Hot Ones, but like with coffee. It would have required a lot of kind of creative thinking how to pull it off to be something like that. I spent like 6 months studying coffee making, read a lot of books, watched like thousands of videos. I don't know if it was 1,000, but all the time I just wanted to make good freaking coffee for myself and anybody else. And I used to go to Goodwill and look for coffee machines, fix them up, and when I started earning better, I splurged into a Breville Barista Pro, and started learning how to brew good espressos. And at this point, I probably have made well over a few thousand shots, which is crazy to think about it. I went super scientific in it. Anyway, so I wanted to put the two together. Why don't I get creatives in the field, musicians, entrepreneurs, filmmakers, anybody in the creative industry to come in and have a chat with me. I really didn't have any sort of idea of questions or anything. I just kind of relied on my personal ability, just getting to know people, asking questions. I always am a question person. I always want to know why, reasons, and ask a lot of personality revealing questions, and I always try to offer or build comfort with people, especially in the field I'm in, creativity, the creator field, comfort is a big thing. Anyway, so I didn't want to overthink it. First good amount of episodes, I didn't even lav mic us. I put microphones on the cameras and put like maybe 1 or 2 condenser microphone in the room, and I just started shooting. Not a lot of overthinking, not a lot of editing. I did not want to overthink the whole process. I wanted to make it as easy as possible. Instead of, doing a lot of research and then really overthinking about the whole process, kind of halting the entire project to that give me so many things that I gotta do that now I can't do it because it's too many for one person to bear. I wanted to tackle it one at a time. Let's get into the habit of shooting, talking to people. Let's just experience it and learn and do better as you do. I'm a hands-on person. Sometimes just want to do it, and as something comes, I'm going to research it and do better. And definitely, I have grown a lot. Like within like a year-ish, less than a year, I started implementing different things. And there were a lot of things that honestly I had not thought about, how many things you gotta think about, or why it takes that many people to do this sort of job. Because there's a lot that goes into it. And I think when you start out and you really don't know, it's okay to not know. And it's really okay not to dwell crazy into it. But the most important thing is continuity. You gotta continuously do it, learn, and apply different things, and always analyze, see why and how can you do it better. I would say if somebody wants to start something, one question: do you have the knowledge? Do you have the items? Can you, or do you need to hire somebody? Can you hire somebody? All these technicalities, like you can definitely shoot an iPhone. The new iPhone is crazy good, but you have to have good sound. So definitely you need to have microphone, just like I'm using a Rode Wireless Pro attached to a A7S III, but I could be doing this with an iPhone. I would show you the iPhone, but it's dead right now and it's bothering me. So it would be good if it wasn't dead. I might have to fix it right now, but whatever. There's another great recording solution, which is this, the Osmo Pocket 3. Phenomenal, easy to use. You can easily put two microphones, Bluetooth microphones in from DJI. The DJI Mic 2 is phenomenal. You have one of these, you put it on a stand, you point it to two people, you get good audio, you get good video. Excellent starter. It's around $800 now with the tariffs and whatnot. But at the time when I bought it, it was around $650 or something. Anyway, so what do you have right now that can help you record it? Because if you're not putting time into research and doing all the pre-production stuff, which I will talk about later, the most budget-friendly way of recording a podcast would be just your phone and put it on a stand, make sure you get a nice wide shot and have good audio. Good audio is going to be very essential. You can have a bad video or not even a video, but with bad audio, you're not going to get a lot of listens. So audio is important. Video is kind of secondary. Now the second from that, or the next tier, would be utilizing, you can use cheaper blogging DSLR or get one of these DJI OP3s, Opus, DJI Pocket 3, DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Amazing, you can use Bluetooth audio with it. You put two DJI Mic 2s or Mic Minis onto it, put it in a quarter, or point the wide angle lens version of this to you guys, to two of you, or however many you have, and you got it. One angle, that's all. And then after that, you want to do a little bit of mixing, and you can just put it up to Opus Clips. Opus Clips will turn it into short form content, and you can plug it and, schedule to be released. Put it on YouTube. I will get into all the other things because everything else can remain the same, but the only thing that you can probably change and always better is how you're recording it. Whether it's an expensive camera, like what I'm using right now, Sony A7S III, or a vlogging camera, your phone, or a small little camera, what I've shown you, DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Anyway, so when I got into it, I just brought in my friends or people I knew more or less what they were doing, so I kind of had some questions in my mind, but not really an idea of where I'm going with it. I was going with the Joe Rogan method, the having a discussion, uncut, unchanged version. But later on, I've learned that you kind of have to niche out when you are when you're starting. You have to have goals. You have to have certain things established before you yourself are gonna become the niche, or however you say. Joe Rogan can do whatever he wants because he is the niche. There are those folks who have reached a certain level of value or success. People listen to them for them, not necessarily for the topic, because they themselves will offer some sort of value with also the people that they have, and it can go for so long, it can be hours long, and people will still be there because, it's them. So, but when you're starting, what are the things that you are passionate about? What can you talk about? What are you good at? And that's step one. What are you good at? What could you talk about? Who could you interview? Do you have a place where you can record? Because that's also pretty important. This room is pretty treated. It's full of treated panels, so there's no echo whatsoever. I don't have to do any sort of audio post work unless I want to put music or stuff underneath it. Anyway, so as I was doing my podcast, I started implementing small changes, more cameras, tighter angles, introducing lavaliers, crisper audio and things like that. And I've tried to implement the coffee idea, but I realized that to do that, I would actually have to have a set created for that sort of idea. I have to have a little bit more production. I can't just bring people in, start recording, start talking. Because there's got to be some element or time. There's got to be some time that's designated to making those coffees. And then, and there goes. If I'm really aiming for that hot ones idea, I got to dig in and check in why. And I got to check why it's successful. How are they doing it? I'm sure it's not that short each episode, and I think they just shortened the whole episode. I could see it being like a half a day production where you shoot for a long time and then you just get it to be that perfect length. And it has good pacing, so there's good set design. If you look at Hot Ones, great clean set design, at least 3 angles wide, 2 close-ups on each person, and there's B-roll added, there's text added, there is a bunch of stuff. So it's kind of like a mini documentary. That's why I more or less call this a talk show instead of a podcast. But so what I've started doing was looking at other podcasts and why are they the way they are? What's their, how is their edit, how's their audio, how's their set design? All these little elements that you might not notice at first, but psychologically it will somehow affect you, So I had this gentleman on my podcast, Charles Sneed. He's one character. He's got his own shtick called My Manhood Matters. Real men, real times, real journeys. I've heard it so many times, now I know the saying. It's faith-driven stories from men with their trials and triumphs, how they overcame certain things. It's about what it means to be biblically a man, and that's more or less what his podcast about. I had him on the show, and we met like a year before then, so I met him probably around 2023, and he knew me as a videographer then, but I became good friends with him, and he asked me to be his producer of the show. And we started shooting late 2024. There's a lot of like pre-production. I would say there's about four or five stages of this. If I were to kind of dissect what are things that I'm thinking about in individual section or segment when it comes to producing a podcast. So the first segment is pre-production. So it's talking a lot about what's the direction, what are the aesthetics, how long is he planning to have those episodes for, how often are we releasing, what's the topic, is there a big topic, and then we have subtopics, who are the potential guests, how well he knows the guests, if he knows them well, does he know more or less talking points. I would say if you don't know the person who you're about to have on your interview, have a pre-interview interview where you basically have a conversation with the person, you can record it, and you try to find these talking points, certain things that would be impactful, would work great with shorts and all these social media platforms, and can help you grow the podcast. Anyway, so that's like a preparation process, and there's of course finding where you're shooting, and there's a lot that we learned from the locations. The first location we shot were at a lobby. First it was in the lobby right after the entrance, or right in front of the entrance inside, and there was like sound coming and things like that. It was driving me insane. I had to do a bunch of audio work, and then for the group discussion with all the folks who were in for 101 and Charles, we had a table talk that was done in high ceiling bunch of glass window area which was also not ideal because there was a lot of light coming in, stuff were overexposed and things like that. So I think aesthetically, it is good if you think about what's the audience that you're trying to hit, what's the demographic maybe, what are they liking, and finding similar podcasts that are successful, because that can give some sort of visual aesthetic to hit. There's no problem in mimicking. I think it's the best thing. I mean, they are successful. People are successful. Everybody mimics, right? So I think it's good to have references that you can kind of recreate and use as guidance. So with that, we're always looking at different podcasts, different like vloggers, different styles of content, and even how they're talking, how they're introducing topics, how they're introducing guests. All these things are worthy to note, to learn, because that can help us just create better content. Because YouTube and these shorts, these are one-to-one, not one-to-many. Even though it's social media and a bunch of people can see it, but it still happens on a one-to-one basis. So if we can optimize the content to get as many of those ones to watch it, then it can be potentially a viral content or something that grows successful. But you can't grow success just out of 1 day to 2 day. You have to continuously do it, and you have to stick with it and analyze everything in the analytics and then do small changes. Anyway, so we shot 5 episodes and it was not bad, really. The only thing I could have been happier with, or only thing that would have made me happier, is if all my audio sources were the same. And I'm using these Rode Wireless Pros, which are 32-bit flow. They don't peak and they're great. They go into the camera, and I also have it internally. But I only had one pair. I mean, it's not cheap. It's like $500, 400, whatever, somewhere around there, 400 to 500. And with that one, I had a mix of like wireless pros, Rode Wireless Pros, and I had the TOS cams in it, which I still have as backups. And it's all good, but it won't sound the same. If I want to have the same kind of sound aesthetic, the easiest is to stick to the same kind of thing. Anyway, so that's one thing, and the place started to make noise every time somebody opened the main doors, which created clicking, which was again another inconvenience, because that means you have to denoise the audio. Anyway, so I think for all of those, I went with a 3 to 4 camera angle setup, which I don't have a switcher. I wish I did, but I used AutoPod, which if you set it up really well and you tell which audio source is which video, then it will kind of give you a help. It will edit it for you, but you still have to check it, make sure everything is alright. And once you have the edited video, you have to work on the audio. If you have too much reverb, you have to de-reverb it, or even go as far as muting everybody else except who's speaking. And that was about... No. I did like a short intro and call to action at the end. And a couple of short videos about what My Manhood Matter is, what's the mission, and we did a This Is My Story kind of segment. Anyways, that's what we did for the first season. But second season, I wanted to try different types of editing and just different things. Heck, it's not gonna hurt anybody, right? And it's so low stage or early, it's so early stage that it can only better it, So I was looking up other podcasts, and a lot of podcasts started with important moments or a short trailer of what's to come. So I decided to kind of start every episode with a bit of a dramatic intro, 30 seconds to a minute with dramatic music and sound bites, and then go back into the podcast and have a short intro, short kind of title sequence with My Manhood Matters. And we recorded more call to action with people and sponsorships, and just more production, writing names, lower thirds, writing subscribe, these little things. And later on, I got into this class called contentcreator.com to learn about like viral content creation or viral video editing and things like that. And then Think Media, I got into there, like how to run YouTube video, like a YouTube channel, and a lot of things that I learned there was creating thumbnails, title and thumbnail, and description and search engine optimization. Then I went through all the episodes and I started, instead of using episode 1, name of the guest, and then just name of the podcast, what I did was I started using NoteGPT, which has a bunch of these AI models, but you can summarize YouTube videos. So I would plug in the YouTube video, get the transcript, and I would say, find me 10 impactful statements that was said in this episode. I want to use it as a title and turn it into a question. So going back earlier, I was telling you about my research. There was this podcast that they didn't use episode-based titles like episode 1, 2, and name. They use quotes, and I think that also has to do with like impactfulness of it and SEO and things like that. And so that was one thing I started adding, just finding a good quote as a title and the name of the person. And then I started creating thumbnails. So a picture of the person, an impactful quote, or keywords. And I used vidIQ for that. Their thumbnail creator, awesome. And of course, ChatGPT can help a lot creating thumbnails or ideas based on topics. It's crazy. And other thing that I started adding was a good description. So I will grab the transcript from NoteGPT and I would upload it to ChatGPT, and then I would feed it some information. Like, I'm working on a YouTube description. I want it optimized. I want it SEO optimized for YouTube. I want you to, based on the information I'm providing you, which I provided the mission of the podcast, about the host, about the guest, and a little bit about me as the producer, what gear I use, my handles of the guest, handles of the host, and I want you to give me a YouTube description. And again, I wanted it to be SEO optimized for YouTube. And then it gave me all the stuff, and it gave me show notes and everything. So at this point, I'm doing SEO, I'm doing tags, because I'm also asking it to give me tags. Everything that's connected with YouTube and SEO has gotta be the best you can do it. So title, thumbnail, description, show notes, all that. And you gotta make sure that you have a good pacing, good storytelling, and possibly if you have a lot of breaks or these unnecessary words, you cut them out. You cut out all the silences. Because first it will matter. It will matter because you want to get good retention for the video, shorts, and all of the platforms, So that's one of the things that I've also learned, that these things are very important. And these things are mostly in the post-production. Once you finished editing and you have a draft up on YouTube, then you can work on all of these. And then what I do when I have everything finished, then, well, remember, I forgot something. That 1 minute with impactful parts, I actually use Opus Clips for that. So the version of the video that's not fully finished, but it's edited, that's the one I'm gonna use later for short form content creation, because it doesn't have any lower thirds, it doesn't have anything that I would need to then fix for vertical purposes, if it makes sense. So once it's edited, it goes to Opus Clips, and then I download like 10 impactful moments, and then I finish what goes to YouTube and Spotify. And what goes to YouTube and Spotify is different than what goes to Opus Clips for short form content, because I want it optimized for vertical I don't want to have multiple versions of the edit per se. And then Opus Clips, I can do some editing there. I can add more text. I can add the text-based hook. I can have AI say an audio hook. I can have, with a good prompt, I can have Opus Clips give me impactful moments. And of course, that's another segment we'll talk about. Okay, so now I mentioned all of that. And then what I started doing is I try to edit all of these and fix all of these and schedule the posts. So like upload every single long form content and schedule them to come out at a certain event, schedule them to come out at a certain time, always on the same time, so it's constantly the same. People are expecting it, but the only thing I am willing to try different times, or I should try different times, are when the short form content is coming out. So each platform will kind of work a little differently, but kind of the same. That's what you have to always research and study how those, what is it called, the algorithm, how that works. Who's gonna see it, you know? That's another thing. I got into it really crazy. Started studying a lot about algorithm and how you can optimize everything that you as the podcast runner and whoever is posting. That's something you really have to do to learn, because that's going to be an important factor for your growth and and what sort of content you're going to do in the future. So once I have the edited version and I have it on Opus Clips, after the episode is out, I start posting short form content on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook Reels, or however it's called, and Facebook posts. Now, it's important to know that Reels, Shorts, these are not the only type of posts that people can see. So it's good to have an idea, or good to have a list of types of posts. So like carousels are important. You know, you have multiple pictures, you can swipe left, right, and you can put like quotes on it. You can put a bunch of different things. What I started doing was I utilized NoteGPT and I upload an episode and I say I'm working on a carousel post for Instagram. Give me ideas based on this episode, or give me 6 lessons that people can take away from this episode. And I start designing it. That about takes 30 minutes to design one post. And I would say that post would be good to do twice a week. And you can do motivational, just picture-based posts, put music over it. So have a variety of posts to do, not just Reels. But Reels are great to find new people, non-followers, and it is going to be important to get engagement, to engage with your potential listeners, to encourage people to like, share, and subscribe, because all these helps. And let's see, what is it that I have not talked about? Marketing. I mean, I think it's beneficial to put aside some money and market YouTube, Instagram, TikTok here and there. That can help boost, but consistency is really gonna be important. You also want to go live. That can also help. So yeah, doing podcasts, producing other people's podcasts, that very quickly made me realize how much work goes into it and what people don't see. It doesn't necessarily mean that the whole aspect of the production, like shooting it doesn't have to be hard or a lot, but if you're strategic, you can do it. I think strategy is important, and if you find ways to measure things, that can definitely help you move forward. So stay tuned for other information that I'm going to be sharing about podcasting. This was Danny Nagy, and again, check out My Manhood Matters. Check out Danny Smith's Lead with Love, another podcast I produce, and check out Caffeinated Creatives, my podcast. And until next time, like, share, and subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, like, share, and subscribe, and send it to somebody who needs this information. Till next time, it was Danny. Bye-bye.